Hello, I'm out in my garden today, enjoying a lovely sun and summer in Somerset, and I hope you are too, wherever you are. It's a really, really magical day. Today is Tuesday, the 6th of June. I'm just trying to read this with the light, and it's a very powerful, clear sign day. It's an Akashic Record day, and wow, yeah, I've been going through quite a lot of stuff over this 13-day process so far. It's so powerful, building up to this solar eclipse, which is going to be so strong. And I am going to be doing an event on the evening of the solar eclipse. If you'd like to join me, I will be posting a Zoom link and talking more about this. It's a free event. If you want more in-depth information, there'll be around your charts and what this is doing for you, then there'll be different levels to work at if you want me to give you that information. And I will also be putting that info up. At the moment, with Mercury retrograde and everything that's going on, I think on planets, I don't know how it is for you, but for me, yeah, it's been super intense since the weekend, and lots going on around, repeating old stories, lots flagging up. Today, what has been really beautiful for Heart Warrior Day. So, yeah, let's just show that on the calendar. We've got the Heart Warrior there. So, I've been out in my garden, and this is my sanctuary. This is what I really love. This is my heart path in such a big way. Is I'm sat here barefoot and just loving the sun, being the Leo, and we've got Taurus moon as well, so that's my moon. So in a lot of ways, there's lots of things that are really, really lovely, as always, about nature and how I always connect to that, and that's where I find my love and my peace. Today I've had a really lovely day with a black cat re-entering my life again, because I had my black cat Basil, and he died in 2018, and I haven't looked to get another feline companion because lots of change has been happening for me in my life since then. So at the moment, the wonderful blessing of this black cat showing up. Oh, there's a big bumblebee. It was absolutely wonderful. And so, yeah, who knows? It was a surprise. He just crawled out from under a hazel tree, and he spent some time with me and my mum. So that was lovely. I've been potting things up last few days, doing some seeds, trying to avoid slug damage as well, and just watching all the birds coming into the garden. The pond is coming along nicely. That's my latest project this year, and just loving how that's attracting more wildlife and how the birds love to bathe in it and drink it. And yeah, that's what I'm really passionate about. More of that, more expansion of that in my life. The flip side. So the flip side is, of course, we're coming up to a dark moon time now. We're pulling into that energy of the new moon, and the new moon is going to be so powerful and a very, very strong manifesting moon, everything that's going on with it, really key to leaving the old story behind as well. So I'm just going to talk a little bit today about what this sign means, and the moon. And of course, we're in the yellow castle now. We're in the flowering castle. We're seeing what's manifest. Yellow warrior is the 16th mastery Mayan sign. It's one of the 7 what I call the solar seals. So we have the first 13 signs, and they are like the process, if you will. Up to number 12 is human being process. And we've got step 13, the 13th mind sign is a skywalker, is the human being who's ready to do the work to go deeper and rewire their human being story. And then from there on, we have the 7 solar seals of mastery. So step 16 is Yellow Warrior, and its planet is Saturn. And of course, we've got Yellow Warrior coming up soon. So today we're on day 7. What's resonating, the magic, tuning into our higher self, if you can, with all this Mercury retrograde. Messenger for our God and Goddess self, the one who's beyond the human being story. That's really key. And because we're going back over old ground, Mercury retrograde, we're seeing what is really key about communication now. We're having lots of communication issues over the past couple of days. I've had my Facebook account hacked. Yeah, just seeing how all of this links in as well to all these processes that we have to do now, supposedly, to keep us safe. And the Saturn Uranus square that's coming up, so Saturn in Aquarius at 13, Uranus in Taurus at 13, that's coming up as well at the end of this wave spell. And I'll be talking about that on the event on Thursday, and how that is so significant, because this goes back to 9/11 and that time then, which, as some of you know who are watching this video, that was a very significant shift on the planet because of what that allowed to happen and how we're revisiting that now. So at a whole different level. So there's a lot going on at the moment around these changes in releasing the old story. And each one of us is doing that on a personal level in order to change the planetary level. And that's the most important focus for people to really understand now, if they don't already. You know, instead of focusing on the outside, on other people, this is about us really coming into understanding how this holograph works, and it works through each one of us changing the inside so the outside changes. So that Taurus moon that we've got today, so we're coming up to last degrees of that. We're at 27 degrees today. So I'm just going to read you the degree of that. Just hoping that it's not too hot for my laptop out here. Taurus 27, a man sculpturing hedges into animal farms. So very interesting name there as well, which goes to George Orwell, if you haven't checked that out. Making a great deal of something out of almost nothing is the mark of fantasy or uninhibited imagination. You prefer to be presented with basic, simple, and ordinary things. Inside your soul, you turn these into what they originally were, releasing their primal power. When alchemy runs this close to the bone, it's astounding what it can do. Tackling long-standing knots and obstacles of every kind is sensed as nourishment and opportunity. A sacrificial incarnation can best frame itself in fantasy and imagination, and thereby hug the edge between worlds perfectly. The path here is to stay under while peeking over the top, and to play it as straight as can be, while coming from an irrepressible source that can come through this peculiar form with flying colours. Today, we've also got in the Divinity Codes, we've got Freya searching again. So this is similar in a way to the Chariot card as well. So it's remembering that we're a soul in a human being body. And we've chosen to come here at this time to go through this process, to go through this personal human being story that we're in, and also to release as much as possible any attachment to doing something that is untrue on a soul level. Remember, that's the power that we're looking to embody now, is truth, freedom from distortion, freedom from fear, fear coming from old historic stories that we're still holding in our amygdala. Be with me through the cold, dark night of the search, knowing that I ride in safety in the chariot of the goddess, and that crowned with laurel I shall find whatever it is that I seek. So, be careful what you wish for, and be mindful of what you wish for. Be heartful of what you wish for. So really tuning in to our heart's desire is the key. Great card for today, Realm Shift. Okay, so as you can see, that's the pentacle, very key to magic. 5-pointed star that we are as a human being, Patrick Starfish. I posted that on Facebook the other day. SpongeBob SquarePants. Used to watch that with my kids and loved it. Okay, so it's remembering to really embrace why we're here, isn't it, at this time, and really love the skin that we're in as much as possible. And not get tied into fear, keep moving forward. That's the important thing. And how do we do that? Well, tapping, of course. So I'm putting together some new support systems. I've been doing some new training, brought absolutely loads of stuff up for me. There you go, Realm Shift. So you can pause. Hopefully you can, there's not too much glare on that, looks pretty clear. Realm Shift, Quantum Leap, Expanded Reality, Web of Possibility, Assemblage Points, the Unknown. Loosen your moorings, journeyer, make room for miracles and expanded realities. In receiving this lens, you're being asked to take a quantum leap beyond the confines of your known reality. You and this reality are entering a total shift of realms. Because of humanity's mass agreement about how reality is, you may have constructed your reality based on fixed beliefs in such things as restriction, denial, limitation, and judgment. However, when humanity reaches the critical threshold of change in its belief system, reality shifts to reflect that change. Set aside how your reality appears. See the universe as an inseparable whole, one hologram made up of a vast web of interwoven possibilities. You can affect and draw from that energetic field now. You can create the reality you choose. A shift of realms is taking place. At this nexus of time and space, powerful galactic energies are meeting your expanding perception of what is possible. Anything you have defined in a limited way is being transformed. Perhaps you have seen this expanded version of reality in moments of extreme crisis, strong emotion, drug experience, deep meditation, severe illness, or a near-death experience. After such moments, all things look different, and the potential of all possibilities emerges. That is because the assemblage points of your reality have been shaken loose. Receiving this lens asks you to consciously loosen your assemblage points and allow them to remain loose. Take a quantum leap into the fluidity of unfixed beliefs and expanded realities. By flexibly choosing to move into the unknown, a complete and marvellous reordering of your world awaits you. Pretty exciting, huh? The Warrior of Light. So I've also got a book with me on that as well that I will show you in a moment if you've not come across it. So we have got the Knight of Swords, which totally corresponds to the astrology of today. So we've got the fiery part of air, and he rules from the 21 degrees of Taurus to 20 degrees of Gemini. So as I said, we're at 27 degrees of Taurus at the moment in the moon. So again, I will put on this link so you can look at all the amazing info that Eli puts on his fantastic articles. He goes into the full, well, lots of different frameworks actually, he quotes. Okay, so when the Knight or King of Swords is thrown during a reading, the will to transcend, an analytical period where the power of idea and motion come into play, letting go of old beliefs and attitudes that no longer serve the motion of the individual, is a person of tough-minded common sense that's usually based on preconception and prejudice. The arrogance of a powerful mind turned on itself in its own desire for control tends to judge harshly, but with scrupulous fairness. A lawyer, senator, or doctor, mastery of creativity and confusion as he sees new points of view while brainstorming new thoughts that bent the mind. Intellectual and mental prowess whose only emotion is to control. A strong personality of fiery emotion and powerful thought. A very strong mentalist card. Yeah, that's been key for me today because I've been revisiting over the past couple of days, let's say financial structures, let's put it that way, without going into too much information. So I've been revisiting times from the past. So again, like I said, this Saturn square that we've got coming up, this was around in 2001. And so things that I was going around with then at that time, things that were going around on the planet at that time, big events happening, and just realizing more and more how the game works, that when you try and appeal to people based on humanity, let's say, for example, compassion, in terms of financial frameworks, my experience has always been there's very little of it. You know, it's just, oh, well, you know, we'll just give you the law, or we'll give you a framework that has no bigger picture awareness of anything else that's going on in people's life. So, for example, a lot of people over the past year have been made to do certain things, whether they wanted to or not, by their rulers and under threats, basically. Still very limited on where we can go and what we can do in the world because of their viewpoint, which we may not necessarily share. But trying to rationalize that in any way, trying to actually see through that maze, you know, it's just mind boggling. And even when you point it out to people, even though you say, look, if you're trying to reclaim some finances from people who have been placed in a position of not being able to maximize their finance due to government rules, then how does that make any sense? So just pausing now, we've got some rural traffic, plenty of tractors going on around here. Yeah, so I've had that happen in a couple of different ways over the past couple of days, where the lockdown has allowed certain financial institutions to say, oh, we haven't got any staff in, you know, we haven't got this. Is that the truth? Who knows? It always seems to work in a one-sided way, and it doesn't seem to be in the side of the people who have been told that they have to be a certain way and behave in a certain way. They have to just basically often the old child rules of, you know, be seen and not heard. You don't have a voice in this. You just do what you're told. You just comply. We don't need to explain anything to you. We just, you know, we're in charge. And it's just seeing this pattern, you know, emerging all the time with this Pluto in Capricorn now being retrograde. So we're going back over the old story of the banks, the finances, you know, you can keep trying to speak to people, trying to engage their humanity, engage their compassion, get them to see a bigger picture of what they're actually involved in. And that it was my job was used as an excuse in another framework in the 30s. You know, we're just doing what I was told isn't an excuse. So we're revisiting that time as well, and just seeing, being a warrior of the heart, what do we choose at this time? What's our personal story? How are we revisiting things? What we're going to do this time? Are we going to find new ways to create new pathways? So it's remembering that we're in White Dog. We are in our ancestral patterns. We're in our ancestral codes. As I said, we're on day 7. The new moon's going to be on day 9, white solar mirror. So are you ready to be Alice, 10 feet tall, going through the looking glass? Are you ready to make that journey, that shift through, you know, changing that inner mirror? And where are we going to go? You know, what we're going to do, what's going to be on the other side of that personal journey. So after that, we've got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then we go into the conscious dreamer code, which is blue night. Blue night and yellow warrior are twinned together because they both have the planet of Saturn. So it's key to understand that if you do transformation around your own Saturnian patterns, so let's say loosely up until around the age that you're 30 would be your first Saturn return. If you've already done that, you're coming up for your second one, maybe, which is coming up for around 60. Just notice how certain themes are playing out now and how you're looking to bring light to the situation. So remember, that's what the Saturn-Uranus square is. Uranus appears in our life around the age of 41. It's where Uranus is in the opposite placement of our birth, and so it drags up the Kundalini. So anybody who's got Uranus in Scorpio, they're having their Uranus opposition now because it's in Taurus, roughly speaking. And so we're getting aligned all the time, and this energy is just getting stronger and stronger. Anything that where we're not in our sovereignty, where we don't value ourselves, well, we've still got big shadow stories going on. We're still doing appeasement. We're still doing enablement. We're still doing some sort of fear story around not really feeling we can be authentic. That's the key. Why can't we be authentic? You know, because we're afraid. We're afraid to speak out the truth. We're afraid to be ridiculed, bullied, harmed, killed. You know, these patterns go back thousands of years, and the majority of human beings on the planet are still very unconscious and are still very much living out fear patterns with no rationale. You know, and I've spoken to many people over the past couple of weeks, and it really is astonishing on one level that people can't see it. But I think a lot of the time it's more that people don't want to see it because they can't deal with how much fear it brings up for them, which, you know, is so understandable. It's so understandable. The people who are orchestrating this on one level are very mindful and aware of what they're doing, and they're doing it with conscious intent to push people's buttons and guide them in a way that they've been doing for a very long time. And now, of course, they've got lots more toys to play with to do that. They've developed so many ways of doing that. And it is really sad on so many levels, because all of that energy could be put into amazing stuff instead, couldn't it? And at the same time, we have to go through this process to really understand the pathology of many humans, what living out of alignment with truth, living out of balance with power creates for humans as well, creates for the warrior. Okay, so I just popped in for my book. And I've just opened it at this page. As you can see, it's got lots of folded over pages. Wonderful book. I love his writing. The Warrior of Light concentrates on the small miracles of daily life. He's capable of seeing what is beautiful because he carries beauty within himself. For the world is a mirror and gives back to each man the reflection of his own face. The warrior knows his faults and limitations, but he does all he can to maintain his good humour in moments of crisis. The world is, after all, doing its best to help him, even though everything around him seems to be saying the opposite. So there's always a purpose. Nobody's acting outside of the divine plan in all of this either, as challenging as that may be. And going deeper into that is the key. What do we believe about how the world is created, how our evolution is unfolding now, and trusting that process. So as I mentioned earlier, I've been doing some new training and really focusing on my childhood and what I'm revisiting now. This 13-day process for me takes me back to when I became a mother. So today, again, I can log in to what I was doing back at that time and how everything changed for me, because then I wasn't just responsible for myself, I was responsible for 2 young children that I'd brought into the world. And so I'm revisiting lots of things around that again. It really made me come into a fierce Leo lion mother, and things that I'd accepted for myself, I would not accept for them. I never had intended to have children, never planned to do that. So I wasn't really au fait with any of the body stuff, or, you know, so I had to rapidly sort of learn about this. But even when I did, all the frameworks that I went into at that time, no matter what intellectually I put forward about how I wanted the birth to be, or, you know, how I wanted to live my life, most of it I was, you know, really being a warrior to try and get that across at a time when I felt very vulnerable, and especially with the medical model as well around how my children were regarded. I had lots of, let's put it this way, new learning and challenges around that, and it really did get me into my power. And, you know, talking 26 years ago when this began. So I started learning psychology then. I wanted to be the best parent that I could. I didn't understand anything about astrology. I didn't understand anything about patterns. I did understand some things about NLP. And I had lived quite an alternative lifestyle in some ways to most of my peers. So I'm not sort of a regular Rochdalian, whatever that is, that's where I come from. Then when I think back to a lot of my friends, they weren't either. They, you know, a lot of them were different. My tribe that I met were different, and I really see that with different eyes now, knowing what information I have. In terms of being a clear warrior is again linked to those cards that I showed earlier. It's about really coming to understand how we are in these ancestral patterns and what we've come here for. That's the primary focus, I believe. We've come here with this particular story. And again, my mum's been on Ancestry this week, and we've unlocked some more secrets around that. What was the trauma in the line? What was the repeating pattern? How have I been living that out? And how do I stop doing that? That's a really good focus to have, isn't it? How do I stop doing that? How do I stop embodying that? So things that I have been tapping on this week that I've still had huge emotion around is, and I think it's core for most women that I work with, is not being able to be me, told that there's something wrong with me, told that I don't fit in, not seen, not heard, I'm not like the rest of the family, that my emotional self is not acceptable unless it's being a good girl. And also having conflicts between what I know intuitively as a young person, what I can feel in my body, about, you know, what's going on with other people in my life, how they're telling me something intellectually that doesn't resonate, that is not what I'm picking up, isn't, you know, it's not truth. So again, that confusion, really, that mind fog, that Mercury retrograde stuff around negating yourself in some way and other people negating you, because of the shadow story that they're projecting out, that they don't want to hear truth, that they don't want to deal with it, that they don't want to do what is necessary to create the change. And then how that makes you feel, because often as a child, again, you're stuck in challenging situations with no solution in sight. And yeah, how definitive that is. So the Red Earth 52-day process is about focusing on the fourth house, the child at 4, the foundation point. And again, the more that you know about your own cosmic codes, the more that you'll start to really see this in a whole different way, see it in a 3D way, and really get in touch with your ancestors around what you're here to unlock, so that you can surrender to healing your heart, white dog, 10th house, and so that you can get clear. This is one of the 13 clear signs on Pakal Votan's tomb, and so it's key to the process. So if you know your code and you know what this relates to for you today, then really go into that. You'll be seeing repeating themes anyway coming up of how this can help you more is to bring what's unconscious to consciousness. Remember, we're in a white wave spell. It's about refinement. It's about looking at what came to light in Red Earth, what is coming to light for all of us about where we live on the earth, where we can go on the earth, what we can do on the earth. Can we be inside? Can we be outside? Who can we be with? At what time? and who says? And starting to really see how what we thought was a particular way of being a human being on planet Earth in supposed frameworks of freedom, now starting to see them in a different way. So I hope you'll join me for the new moon, and my intention is to really shed some light on how to let go of the old storyline, how to let go of the fear, and how to trust that you as an individual have the power, you have the divine goddess on call at all times. She's always there to help us make the next step. We've just got to be ready to make it. And if we make it by healing our heart and clearing our amygdala story, clearing up whatever those buttons are that are being pushed right now, then the natural next step is our current day-to-day reality changes, because that's how it works. I'm not saying it's easy to do. It's very challenging this week. Huge astrology this week. Hold on to your hats. Get tapping. Get out in nature whenever you can. Enjoy the sun. The sun is a light. The sun is the cosmic code streaming in. And soak up that healing energy, because we are supported at this time. So lots of love. Keep going. Just take one step at a time.